they're not really pressuring her to lie or anything or to like what they like.
No.
They're just naturally curious.
I can be a good friend. I can be a terrible friend.
Mm-hmm.
I can be selfish. I can be selfless. I can be kind. I can be mean. I can, it's more acknowledging like I'm a little more complicated than just a good person.
You've just basically nerfed anxiety. Like her proper place is at the bottom of a chasm to disappear.
Yeah, basically. I think it's a very believable like human reaction. Watching
Ryan, what do you think of The Last Jedi?
Oh, The Last Jedi. That's a completely different story.
Hello and welcome to Save the Script. I'm Agent M. I'm doing a weird voice. I don't know why, but hi, welcome back. I'm joined as always by Baby G.
Hello, welcome back everyone for episode 6.
Yeah, today we have a very special guest with us. Ryan, you can introduce yourself if you want.
Hello there. I'm Ryan.
Nice to meet you. Okay.
Yeah, that's all you need to know, I guess.
Well, today we're going to be talking about Inside Out 2 because that just came out like a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And we've all seen it. And we all loved it. Right?
I mean, I liked it. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Well, that's...
I don't know if love is the right word. But...
I gave it like a 7 out of 10, but for me that's high praise. So
I mean, I think it's pretty good. I think 7's good. Good score.
Good number.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the first one? First Inside Out.
Well, for me, it's been so long since I've seen that,
Mhm.
and the first time I watched it, it was okay.
It was okay?
I wasn't that entertained. It was worth one watch, and after that, I'm good.
Yeah,
What about you?
I liked it a lot the first time I watched it, but then I hyped it up for you, and I watched it with your family, Baby G, and and I was like, this isn't nearly as good as I thought it was. It's just kind of okay.
Yeah, what struck me the first time watching it was the plot just kept going on side quests. Like it just did it, and I'm okay with side quests as long as you are fleshing out characters, but I don't think they did that as well as they could have in the first one. There are a lot of different points where I just felt like it was dragging on to the point of it wasn't helping at all. Like wasn't helping itself progress any characters, which yeah, I don't know. It was okay. I'd give it a maybe a 4 out of 10 maybe at the best. But
Yeah,
it wasn't horrible. I thought the animation was pretty good.
I think I'd probably lean 4 or 5, probably more towards 5 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just pretty meh.
Yeah. Whatever I see praise for, it's always, oh, Bing Bong was so good. And I'm like, okay, the whole idea of Bing Bong, like, saying goodbye to, like, I don't know, not necessarily your childhood, but just the ideals and aspirations of the future you once had. And I'm thinking, I don't know, we kind of had, Pixar has a much better, like, saying goodbye and growing up with Toy Story 3 that,
Yeah.
like, basically brings me to tears every time I watch it. And when I watch Bing Bong, I don't know, it's just, with all of the other aspects of the movie just dragging, it's just, I just think of Toy Story 3 and it just doesn't compare. So
Yeah, I think Toy Story 3 does it a lot better. I will say it hit me harder the first time I saw it, but like everything in the movie hit me harder the first time I saw it, and then second time I didn't have like the emotional sort of investment I had the first time. And that was before I really started thinking about movies more critically
mm-hmm.
like I do, because that was like in theaters and that was before The Last Jedi hit,
and that changed
that changed
everything.
everything. If you spent any time online of watching
Ryan,
movie
what do you think
reviews,
of The Last Jedi?
Oh, The Last Jedi. That's a completely different story. Terrible.
Okay, I approve of that decision.
I thought it was life changing. We terrible.
It was life changing in the sense that it sucked the life out of me when I watched
There we
it.
go.
Yeah.
Sure. Did that for Luke Skywalker too, apparently.
It was life changing, like any traumatic event. What did you think about Inside Out 1, Ryan?
Well, we just asked him, but
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't
didn't we pass over?
remember much of any of it.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I just remember not just being okay with it anytime I've seen it on TV. It's not that
Just
good.
okay,
It's
yeah.
like I don't really care to watch it again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I'm right there with you.
I didn't really want to watch it again, but I knew I was gonna make a review for Inside Out 2, and I was like, oh, I better watch it again. And my opinion on it didn't change. I probably didn't have to rewatch it, except for I remembered that they stole Shark Boy and Lava Girl's train of thought, genius joke. But
Shark Boy and Lava Girl did better.
absolutely, because they did it first. That means they get all the credit. That's what it takes. But it just really unimpressive. But then the second one, I was the trailers did not interest me at all. I was not excited to watch it per se. In the first 5 minutes of the movie, I thought, man, this is gonna be really bad. And I was just kept just being okay. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it goes. And the last act of the film really like stuck the landing for me. I thought much better than I ever would have thought going into it from the trailers.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. I was not very impressed by the trailers. I remember we talked briefly over Discord about the trailer. Just like, I'm not sure some of this stuff lines up with the first one very much.
Yeah, well, the whole
Couple
idea
things.
of adding the emotions, like
Yeah.
anxiety, couldn't that be fear? Like what it like? Uh,
Yeah, and we can get to that in more detail in the spoiler part, but
yeah.
we'll keep
Yeah.
it kind of a broad overview for now.
What do you think going into it, Ryan?
I did not have high hopes for it, like at all.
Mhm.
I just didn't think it was gonna be good. I was just watching it because give it a chance. I thought it was really good though.
Yeah.
I was very entertained. Good enough to see it twice.
Mhm.
It's more than I ever gave the first movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the trailers did not
Yeah.
give me hope for it.
Yeah, I don't think the trailers did a very good job selling the movie.
Yeah.
I think I partially also didn't have much hope, knowing that I don't really like a lot of the movies coming out.
Well,
And a lot of franchises, so I wasn't giving it
well, that's a very good point. I mean,
low expectations for what I've seen.
Oh yeah, like
recently.
In my mind, the last really good Pixar film was like Coco, and after that, I mean, who knows how long ago.
I mean, I've been just skipping out on Pixar film. I wouldn't have seen this one unless without Baby G making me.
I was like, hey, if you want to make a podcast episode, you might want to go see this because I want to talk about it.
Okay. And here we are.
Here we are.
So, yeah, I mean, the last Pixar film I watched was Onward. And I watched that for the first episode of Save the Script, which you will probably never hear.
Yeah, probably not.
So that was a long time ago before we launched this show properly, or, well...
Officially.
Publicly, So, yeah, and that movie was just a lot of wasted potential. And looking at all the other Pixar films coming out, I keep feeling like they just keep missing my interest. They keep missing that hook for me. Like, what's the hook for Elemental? Why should I go watch that film?
It's the fire girl and lava boy. I'm sorry, no, water boy. His name is Wade.
Yeah.
Isn't that clever?
Why would I want to see a knockoff of Shark Man Lava Girl? Come on. I mean, just like, they don't have these like strong pitches to me. It's like, okay, fire and water girl, they fall in love.
It's not a water girl. It's fire girl.
Whatever.
It's big difference.
It's not a very memorable movie. Okay, it's really kind of a generic premise, and I know that like a lot of these films that Pixar's been coming out with lately are supposed to be like really personal stories from their directors and stuff.
Yeah.
But
like Turning Red.
The premise still needs to be strong. It still needs to be strong enough to get audience interest and get them in the door. And of course, then the execution needs to be strong.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. On one hand, yeah, like ideas go a long way, but also like A Bug's Life is like a super simple, like based off
Yeah,
of a freaking fable,
but I mean,
and
like,
that's like I love A Bug's Life. So
it's just like there's not this strong sense of like conflict, like conflict pulling me
that is
in
true. Yeah.
from the trailers most of the time. The trailers don't like establish what the conflict of the story is and why I should be invested. Like, why should I go and see? Okay, here's the struggle they're dealing with. Here's what they're gonna do to try to like. Most of the trailers are just kind of like, here's some stuff.
Doesn't it look great?
Yeah, it looks good. It looks really good, but there's not a lot of like conflict, at least in passing from what I remember. Of course, keep in mind I've been skipping these movies because the
Yeah.
trailers haven't been interesting me, and every time I hear about them, it feels like I was justified in skipping. So, except for maybe Soul. Soul got some pretty positive feedback,
Mm-hmm.
but like then everybody said, "Oh, well, after he, dies, it just kind of it gets kind of boring." It's like that's kind of the whole
Yeah.
premise of the film though. So,
Yeah, and I wasn't even a huge fan of that message or how they executed it anyway. So
yeah, so I don't know. I haven't been feeling Pixar lately. I think Coco is definitely the last film that
Mhm.
was like, wow, that is Pixar.
yeah,
Yeah, that is a
and
good
that was a
Pixar
while
movie.
ago. So
Yeah, and I think this film is maybe not a complete return to form, but it is a big step in the right
oh, I
direction.
mean, compared to the recent stuff,
Yeah,
this
it
is
feels like a Pixar movie. It does
oh
feel
yeah.
like old school Pixar could have made this. Not that it's like the greatest of the greats of their old stuff,
Hmm.
but it does feel like, oh, this is a Pixar film.
Yeah.
And some of the new stuff just hasn't quite felt like that to me. But
Yeah, not at all. Um, what are the what else you guys want to talk about before we get into
I mean, we should
spoilers?
probably just give like some non-spoilers thoughts about like the broad things in the film.
Non-spoiler thoughts about it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, what did you think about the characters in broad sense? Or
Well, I mean, I thought adding new characters was going to be a horrible idea. But I thought they worked pretty good. I just want to go into what happens in the movie about them, but Riley's problems, like in the real world, I thought were done pretty well. I was actually interested in what was happening, like in the real world, as well as like in her mind. The back and forth worked really well.
it felt a lot more natural.
Oh yeah, way better than the first one, I think.
In the first one, she could kind of seem like schizophrenic almost at times.
Yeah, I understand. Like as a child, you're led by your emotions, but it was not portrayed very well. And
Yeah.
in this one, they do a much better job. They do a much better job with that. I thought the comedy in this film was so much better than the first one. I laughed quite a bit in this one. Um, Plot was way more streamlined. Everything was focused. There's obviously things I don't like about it. We'll get into that, but yeah, I thought top notch.
I would agree. I think the characters were pretty good. I'm not sure. Um, there's some reservations I have about the new emotions introduced. Um, some of them there still seems to be some overlap to me with the old cast of emotions. Like, it feels like a lot of these new emotions could probably be just aspects of the old emotions, like because the old emotions are so broad that I think they cover a lot of ground. So
Yeah.
there's some characters that I'm not sure are completely necessary, um, but in general, I think the main characters are pretty strong. I think the main characters of joy, sadness, their relationship still carries on like really well from
Mhm.
the first film. Like, I'm really glad they didn't forget that. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes the first film's lessons can just get forgotten. So I'm glad that they remembered. And anxiety is a very good antagonist, and so she's really well developed as well. And of course Riley, as you said,
Yeah.
she feels much more like a real person now.
Yes. Yes.
So I would definitely agree with that. What about you, Ryan?
I thought it was really good. I wouldn't necessarily completely agree that the new emotions could be practically just like offshoots of the old ones, and I mean I can get into that more later when we.
Right.
Um.
And I think that's a fair perspective to have.
Right, and it's because like with like fear and anxiety, they're similar, but they're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
But we can talk about that later if you want. I thought it was really good. I really liked the animation a lot better, especially how the emotions looked because and they I'm not even sure how to describe. I thought they looked a lot better. Um, more texture.
Yeah,
More
that was something
texture.
that
They
stood
were
out
still
to me right away.
in the first film. It was like, they glow and they glow a lot. This one,
They
they were a
glow
lot. There was a lot more
Yeah.
detail to them. So.
And Joy was kind of the one who glowed. Like,
It was almost
not the other ones didn't really glow as much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it does have this weird like kind of like texture
yeah. It's not like
effect on them.
almost like glow dusty
Yeah.
if that's the word.
Kind of like
Because
fuzzy
the old one is like
almost.
more smooth. Like
Yeah.
they're just completely smooth. You know, just not
Yeah, and at first I was kind of like, this looks kind of strange, but
right.
once you see the characters from the distance you're gonna see them for like the rest of the movie, it's like, oh, it looks good. It looks good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure if I remembered the first movie, I would probably agree on the fact that Riley is more human and less in control. I think it's weird that their new emotions are added, and then we didn't see them in the first one with the parents.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
and also, when when you hit puberty, anxiety doesn't just kick in; it's in you when you're a child
Right.
in some form. So that's kind of so it's like why like I understand for like progress in a movie, you want to add something new.
Yeah.
So for the next one, you want to add something new. So I understand that, but that's I think that's more nitpicky.
Well, I agree.
In a
There's
sense.
some world building things that are definitely
Yeah, the world building's not very good.
Yeah, you can definitely tell they retcon some stuff, and we're like, oh yeah, this was here all along. Yeah,
Yeah.
we intended this. So, yeah, that is kind of distracting. But I do think like I like I said about the new emotion characters, I'm kind of on the fence about that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like some I think are pretty well justified. Like anxiety is pretty well justified having her as a separate character from fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can get it, but like I'm also leaning back away from I'm kind of teeter-tottering.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I can definitely understand. There's certain ones that I'm like, yeah, they're justified in the film, for sure. And the plot. What do you think about the plot?
Well, we're gonna go into spoilers then.
Just give like, what about like broad thoughts on like the message of the film? How
Oh,
about
I
that
love
instead?
I love the message of the film. Way like the first one, I joke and I just say it's as simple as it's okay to be sad. Um, this one, which is kind of it's kind of
is,
literally
yeah.
what the first one is,
Yeah,
which
kind
is
of
an okay message, I guess. But this one, you could say it's like just like just dealing with anxiety, but they show like Riley outside and like how she deals with it and like the decisions leading up to what's causing this like big anxiety attack. Like it's done so much better than just saying it in the simplest terms. So
yeah, it feels more like we're seeing a glimpse into someone's mind rather than we're seeing like somebody's mind pilot them like a mecha suit.
Well, like the progression of decisions that happen, everything is compounding towards the end.
Right.
And instead of like the first one where you could argue Riley's losing herself, you know, everything's fading away in the first movie. It I don't know, I'm trying to explain why it didn't work in the first one and it does in the second one. Is maybe because Riley wasn't in control, it seemed, at all. It was all the emotions decision.
Right.
So, like, when things were falling apart, it didn't make sense because there were still emotions controlling her. But in the second one, it's Riley's. They show her making the decisions out. They don't show them the emotions controlling her in the mind when she makes the decisions. Right. It makes a big point of showing her outside in the real world, her having to make these decisions, and it just feels a lot more personal. Like So I loved just the progression of decisions that Riley gets put in and how far she goes. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it felt like a very natural like progression. It felt like just the way somebody would think and the way somebody would act in this sort of circumstance where they're having to deal with the information of, hey, my friends are going to be gone,
Yeah. Well,
and
I
all
mean,
this other pressure as well.
yeah, the idea of I don't know, I'm just gonna go saying things that are in the movie. Like the idea of this is gonna be one of the last times you're gonna get to hang out with your friends from your school because they are moving to a different school.
Yeah,
The idea of spending time to make new friends on the team you want to play on, that is not a bad idea to do. Um, in but to the point that she does it is wrong. It is a wrong thing to do. But I can understand, like, as a young person, you do want to make this decision to make new friends at a school on a team you want to play on.
right.
But she just goes too far, like way too far. So
Yeah,
all these decisions she makes are to a point where I could see myself. If I was too selfish, I could make those decisions. Like
Yeah.
these are a personal decision that anyone could fall into, like a mistake that anyone could fall into. So.
I think it's a very believable like human reaction to the
Mhm.
situation, for sure. I I really like the theme. I think they have um, a lot to say about anxiety and just like how it affects people and how we can kind of deal with it.
Mhm.
Just mostly how it affects people, but kind of how we deal with it at the end there. But
Mhm.
um, I'm not completely sold on everything they said about it, but I do think they have a lot of interesting ideas to say. So I think it's worth listening to and considering for sure.
I thought it was good. I am just trying to remember what the trailer said. So
It's
I
okay, just kind of keep it broad and that'll
Mhm.
be good enough.
I mean, I thought the message, I thought the message was brought across very well about how, well, what I'm thinking of is, I think, a spoiler.
Okay.
So,
Well, just think it was well done. I
yeah,
think the
I
theme
thought it
was
was
well
well
done.
done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. We'll move into spoilers then.
Oh boy,
So-
let's go.
You've had your warning. If you're still here, why?
Well, that means you watched the movie, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Oh, hey.
And if you didn't, go watch
Yeah.
it.
Well, now that you've watched the movie, welcome back. We're gonna talk about spoilers now.
Did you just want to start with summarizing the plot? Talking about the first few decisions Riley makes.
Sure. I mean, I'm up for going through this. However, I'm totally okay with you taking the lead on this one.
Okay.
So
Okay. So the basic setup for the film. All right. So the idea of introducing new emotions. It's just the normal emotions from the first film, at the very beginning, and they set up the new rules for the world. Basically, the friendship islands. There were like a ton of them at the end. At the end, they were trying. At the end of the last film, they were trying to set up. This is where we're going to go from now on. Different personalities, different islands. Okay, they're mentioned once at the very beginning, and they ditch them. Like they're not in this film ever.
yeah.
Because they completely shift and go to what they call Riley's core identity. It's like a new feature in the mind, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Um,
A new update has just dropped.
yes, and as a person, as a new patch for the mind.
Yeah.
Okay. I usually hate. Oh, this is a problem with the film. I'll just straight up admit it. It's a problem that they have completely abandoned like a full feature of the mind. Like the Friendship Islands was a huge focus that drove Riley to make decisions in the first film.
I will agree that it is a huge focus in the first film, and maybe it should have been acknowledged a little more. But I don't have any problem with them shifting focus away from it.
Mm-hmm.
How
Well,
old was Riley in the first film?
I think
was
she's 11 at the end of
yeah.
it.
Because I was
something
going
like
to say
that.
if she was younger than that, it would make sense because the core identity was her beliefs, and her
Mhm.
beliefs drove her to do what she does.
Well, they weren't believed
And-
in the first film. Is the thing.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
the thing, is that when you're younger, your beliefs don't really drive you, other people around you, and how they influence
Mhm.
you.
Yeah, it's
More
more
so, the
I would-
younger you are,
Yeah,
which she's 11, so she's out of that stage. So I would agree with what you're saying.
I think that's a reasonable justification. Yeah.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
say that your personality is your primary driving force,
Mhm.
and that rather than like like these fundamental beliefs, at least they're not going to be the forefront, even if they're
Yeah.
there. But
Yeah.
surely they are.
Yeah. But highlighting that, as I think an issue with the film, I still like the core identity way better.
Oh yeah.
So to explain how it works, um, memories are down below in like a pool area, and they create beliefs that create this true self for O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And the way we are presented, how memories get there, is that the emotions handpick them from Riley's mind and plant them there, and that gives her her belief system and her core identity. And what is happening is Joy is filtering all of the ones she thinks are best for Riley.
Right.
She runs through them. They say things like I'm strong, I'm a good person, I'm a good friend, stuff like that. And then they also handpick the really bad emotions, the embarrassing ones, the shameful ones, and they just launch them in the back of the mind. They ignore the pit in the middle where that could make them disappear forever from the first film.
Yeah, which I don't know why they would ignore that. Like, I'm trying to come up with like an in-universe reason.
Yeah.
Because like I know the writers ignored it because they were going to use those later.
Yeah.
And they can't use them later if they're in the pit.
Yeah.
They wouldn't exist.
We need them later it's a surprise tool that will help us later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they launched them in the very back of the mind, which I think is funny because in the first film, the maze, like long-term memory, was supposed to be basically infinite. In this movie, it's obviously not. It's like Riley's long-term memory is shrinking significantly.
She's got early onset dementia.
But I just thought that was funny.
Oh, no.
Not a huge problem. Not a problem at all. I think, but it was funny.
Yeah, there are a couple like world-building things that I have problem with, like the sarcasm.
I loved that joke.
I
thought that was great.
I didn't think it was a bad joke. I have more of I kind of like a problem with the world building implications of it.
Well, I think the idea of like lying, like making a lie in your mind, like doing something you know is wrong, like that's damage to your like mind. Like I'm okay with that.
Well, sarcasm isn't a lie though. It's not necessarily a lie.
Not necessarily.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Sarcasm is often just a comedic tool.
Yeah, that is true.
The intention isn't to deceive somebody, and also the fact that it's like a new mechanic is not true. Like she's sarcastic in the first film. Yeah. It's at the dinner scene, I believe. I saw a clip.
Okay,
At the
gotcha.
dinner scene, she responds with sarcasm to her mom.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
yeah.
it's like, so it would have come up in the first film.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
true.
It was something that disgusted, not boredom. So I'm not sure. There's some like little world building things that are kind of weird.
But why?
I don't think that's a major one, but
I mean, I just don't know why. Like, it's a good joke to have a chasm open up for
it's
sarcasm.
funny, yeah.
But why in the world? Because she has made, use sarcasm. Why would it be destructive though?
My reason is because it's a lie. Yeah. Like this is like doing damage. This is a bad thing.
But we already established
that
sarcasm's not a lie.
Because like I'm sarcastic. Sometimes someone says something blatantly obvious, and I go, "Really? Yeah. That's not a lie."
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. I don't know. Maybe in the second film she's sarcastic and nothing happens, and they realize, we need to change it from a sarcasm pit to a lie pit.
It's already inconsistent with the first film because it doesn't happen in that one, and she is sarcastic, and it's not like it's something that they wouldn't have experienced because like in this film it's established that it's basically like a massive earthquake, so joy and sadness would have felt that in the first
like
film.
I said, the long-term memory was basically infinite, so maybe it was just happening like millions of miles away.
Yeah. Riley's brain.
Maybe that's shrinking. Why her long-term memory is shrinking because of the sarcasm.
Gotcha.
The sarcasms are making Riley stupider.
One time it's not being sarcastic.
Yeah, I just a couple little things like that.
And oh yeah.
We already mentioned the new emotions being introduced and how that's inconsistent. Ryan pointed that out.
Mm-hmm.
And that did bother me.
Yeah, well, like I said, the world building has major issues with the Inside Out universe.
It is, the world building is like fundamentally, it's inconsistent with the original film.
Yeah.
It is definitely a retcon.
But like I said, I do like the belief system way better and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
used so much
Well,
better in the
out of
Friendship Island.
out of all the retcons, I think that's the one I have the least problem with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the new emotions are way more significant to me. The beliefs, it's like, okay, well, even though we see inside other people's heads, doesn't necessarily mean we would see their their
Mm-hmm.
little belief tree pop up or anything. It makes more sense how that could be tucked away.
Yeah.
You know?
Unless it's a conspiracy theorist, and then it's huge.
Then the whole brain is just one big
The core identity is the moon landing. It's fake.
Gee whiz. Yeah, there are just a few world building things that are
Mm-hmm.
kind of a hiccup for me. Like, I mean, do you want to talk about the emotions and whether or not you feel they're justified, or how would you justify them, Ryan? Because I'm interested to hear how you justify some of them.
How would I justify the new emotions? Well, I mean, I would. Well, so I guess I'll talk about anxiety. How that's different from fear, because fear is more of scared of what you see and what's around you. You know, being scared or what you know will happen or
Mhm.
could
Right,
happen.
and that's the
You know,
distinction they make.
and
in
like
the film.
and yeah, they
Yeah.
do make it in the film, and I like personally, I really like that fear really likes anxiety because they're so similar. They're practically the same,
Right.
but they're different. And so and like I guess envy.
Mm-hmm.
Envy's one of them. At first I'm like, wait, isn't she like? But no, disgust is. If disgust was jealousy, I could see there being a problem there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's still a difference. Um, but and then you got embarrassment. And honestly, I loved him because there were some times
Right.
where in the movie where I felt secondhand embarrassment from Riley. I'm like, no, please, don't do that. Why are you awkward? Because I relate. But I mean, I just don't see too much justification for them not being in the second or the first. Sorry.
In the first one.
And or also, why is anxiety the only emotion in the parents' minds?
That's
The
that's
new
shown,
emotion.
yeah.
Sorry. But I mean, but whatever. I think they're very good emotions to put in for when someone goes through puberty and getting to that age where you're starting to think, you're starting to think more selfishly, more about yourself
Mm-hmm.
and how others view you.
I definitely agree with how others view you. I'm not super sure about self.
Well, when I say yourself,
You mean
I
like
mean,
self-consciousness?
I mean you're I meant how others view you. Because when you're scared of how others view you, you're only thinking about
Right.
yourself.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
what I meant.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you mean like being self-conscious, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
not
got
like
you.
selfish.
Yeah.
In the sense of like
I want this.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that. But yeah,
Okay.
how others view you.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that then. Yeah. I just can't help but wonder what would happen if they didn't incorporate the new emotions and they just kept it with the original ones.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that would be like? I'm not saying it's necessarily what they should have done, like for sure. I don't really think so.
You would just make it so that fear, if you wanted to have fear
Right.
take the place of anxiety, you would have to have him basically go on a character arc of him decide coming to the fact that he thinks that he needs to be in more control in order to protect Riley. And you just see him taking more and more steps, more drastically, to try to nudge the other emotions to do what he thinks is best for Riley. You start giving him more of a planning for the future, just like anxiety does. You just have him take the place of anxiety.
Yeah.
The other emotions, they don't do a whole lot. Sadness, she was like shame, and at one point in the film,
Yeah.
and so she could have been embarrassment. Like that wouldn't have been the worst thing
Yeah.
in the world. It's just so much more simple with the new emotions. It was just easy.
Agree.
It was an
Yeah.
easy shortcut to do it. So
I definitely think it was much more efficient to just introduce the new emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious about having like it be one of the pre-existing emotions. Like if it was fear, because then they already have a pre-established like character dynamic. Like they were friends before,
Yeah.
and so there's like a new character element that would have been introduced. Again, I just think this is interesting to think about.
Yeah. It's hard enough to have like literal emotions change and feel different things that happens,
Which they do.
which they do. They just should have do it in this film and the first one.
Yeah.
So I guess you could have done that. I guess they could have had a.
I mean, it would have been consistent with what they did before in that case.
Yeah.
In that way, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, there's a part where Joy straight up, like, cries.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
The emotion.
And gets really mad.
Yeah.
Like, they all get mad at different
Really
times.
angry. Yeah.
Anger's just unneeded. Everyone else has anger.
Yeah. I think the only one that's, like, consistently feeling, like, the same emotion is, like, sadness. I think
Yeah.
she's probably the most consistently, like...
But like I said, she comes across as shameful at one action. Riley does, which
Sure.
I did not think the movie was going to present shame in like a positive light. Like as like I should feel shame for doing this action.
Well,
I was really happy with
Okay.
that.
Joy explicitly says,
Mhm.
you know, and this is kind of something I like. It's also kind of something I have a big problem with. That she learned that every emotion has its place, has its purpose for helping Riley.
Mhm.
I don't really agree with that.
I would say anxiety needs to go.
Yeah,
It's-
I don't think the film really agrees with that with anxiety, because by the end of the movie, anxiety is just kind of pushed away in a little corner.
well, yeah. Well, by the end of the film, they're like, "Oh, we should study for a test." I'm like, "Okay, that's just straight up fear." Like, it could have that because, like, fear. I remember in the last movie, like one of the list of fears he had was like, we fail a test on the first day, like,
Right.
because he obviously plans for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, you've just basically nerfed anxiety. Like, her proper place is at the bottom of a chasm to disappear.
Yeah, basically. It's like, and I think that's just kind of a leftover problem because of the first film not having this in mind.
Mhm.
There's no really way, there was no way they could have known that this was the direction they were going to go and everything. But
It's
like,
been like I think it's been 9 years since the
it's
first
been
film.
quite a while.
So
I think it's been
it's a long
quite a
time.
while. You can definitely see that in the visuals, which have improved quite a bit.
Go. Mhm.
But like some like the new emotions that are introduced, like what is the purpose of envy? And some people may go like, oh, it like helps us improve. It helps us like be self-motivated and stuff. And it's like, you know, speaking from a biblical perspective, both envy and anxiety are like, they're not good emotions. They're not things we should be like seeking out or rewarding. They're things we need to deal with and like move on from. They're not things that are like really good for us. They're bad for
Yeah,
us.
well, I would even say anger, like that needs to be managed. Fear, you need to have a healthy fear. Like you can't. Some fears are bad.
Right. I think that the original emotions are broad enough that you can say, yeah, each one of those has a purpose. Like there is a purpose
Yes.
to anger
Yes.
for sure. There are definitely times
Mhm.
where it's right to be angry.
Yes.
Like if there's injustice or if someone is getting hurt or
Mhm.
you know, there's like a righteous anger you can have for sure. And like fear, yeah, there are definitely things you should be afraid of. Like
Mhm.
you shouldn't see a bear in the woods and go, "Hey, buddy!" Like,
I want to pet that.
yeah, you should have a healthy fear of that. Fear can be a very healthy thing, and the first movie acknowledges that really well.
Mhm.
But it's just the fact that they introduced anxiety and envy as emotions, and then said that I have a problem with. Like boredom, embarrassment, I can get those. Those can have a purpose.
Yeah.
You know, boredom can have a purpose in that, like, okay, it'll motivate you to maybe do something else. You know, like maybe you can get something out of that. Embarrassment, obviously.
Very reactionary.
Yeah, and there's definitely a purpose for it. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, there's definitely purposes that you can draw from those two. But like envy and anxiety are the big ones that I have problems with. That being said about, especially because it's not biblical. But
Well, yeah, just the.
I know that other people aren't gonna have.
I know, but just at the end of, it's hard for me as for someone to tell me, oh, it's okay to have like a certain amount of anxiety, when in my mind, like, from all of my experience, Most people use anxiety in a negative, very negative sense.
Yeah,
It's never a good thing to have like any overwhelming anxiety. And if people say there is an amount of healthy anxiety, they're not talking about anxiety. They're talking about a fear of something or like
right. And there's like
it,
I think it's like the difference between worry and concern, right?
yeah, that's
It's
what I
like
mean.
those two
Like
things are different, and concern can be
yeah,
helpful,
as
like
soon as
healthy.
the line between anxiety being okay and not okay, it becomes not anxiety and anxiety.
Yeah,
That
I
would
would
be the
agree with that.
distinction.
Yeah, and especially since it's explicitly unbiblical, like envy is one of like the seven deadly sins. It's like, yeah, there's a purpose for
They
that.
just instead of envy being looking all cute, it's just like this ugly
This
looking like
horrible monster. A little like parasite
it's
squirming on the
like
ground.
there's like this doors that with all their names on it, and then the one for envy is just like a portal to like the demon realm, and like a demon comes out.
There are 7 doors in the basement. Don't open them. Joy, don't open the doors in the don't open the 7 doors. That's the next movie.
Oh my god, one of them's open already.
It's Joy versus the 7 deadly sins. Yeah, and of course there's the explicit like biblical command of don't worry. You know, like do not worry. Worry for nothing. It's like yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
But the way they dealt with anxiety, I was pretty happy with at the end, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
Hopefully, eventually.
It's just that statement paired with the new emotions, with those
Yeah.
two coming in, that kind of bothered me. But I'm sure plenty of other people won't have a problem with that. That is more of a personal issue, more of a faith based issue than an objective critique about the film. It's more of
Well,
my worldview
I mean,
and their worldview not combining
I mean,
at all.
everything. My personal experience talking with so many people, I know
Yeah.
no one who would positively affirm that. Oh yeah, my anxiety in my life, perfect. Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
has a place. No one would say that.
Or envy. Envy's a character flaw. It's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that line wasn't thought about with those implications, or if it was, they don't agree with us. And well, I'll just have to disagree.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But moving back to the plot, I want to jump to the real world, or
okay.
I don't know. Is it wrong to say the mind is not the real world?
Well, maybe we should say external and internal.
External, internal. Okay.
Maybe we should do that.
The external world. Okay, so what's happening is Riley, with her two best friends, are going to a hockey camp. She finds out on the way that her two friends are going to different schools than her next year, right? So they're not. This is going to be their last big hurrah together before like they're going to different school. Okay, sad. It was super sad. Okay, so she gets there. This is a hockey camp, right? So she wants to, I guess, show off to her coach, potential new coach. She wants to make the team because it's super hard to make the team. And she's conflicted with the fact that she wants to hang out with her new friends, or not new friends. She wants to make new friends and also hang out with the original friends. Both will come at cost, though, and that's the plot of the whole film, is that she has to.
Right.
She either enjoys perspective is that well it'd be better for her to be happy, hang out with her new friends, and anxiety would be no, she will be happier in the future if she has new friends. Like,
I think you got it backwards. I think you had a slip of the tongue there.
Okay, let me say it again. Joy wants her to hang out with her original friends, one she currently has, and wants to focus on having fun for the weekend. And anxiety thinks it's better for Riley's future if she dedicates herself to making new friends on the team and working hard and passing the test for the coach and all that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
And so the main thrust of the film happens when anxiety and all the new emotions shove all of the old emotions from the previous film and launch them into the back of the mind, right? Along with Riley's core belief.
Not the back of the mind. They basically mind prison. They went down to be suppressed emotions.
Yeah.
Where she hid all her dark secrets. Well, it's all her secrets. There's this like some kind of like room of safes.
With all the
Yeah, it's
Yeah, like vaults.
It's the vault of secrets.
Vaults of secrets. Yeah. Okay. And where we see her deep dark secrets, or her secret virtual crush.
oh yes,
And Bluey. Wait, no.
not
Bluey.
Bluey.
Blippy.
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 No, it wasn't Blippy. I don't even know what it was.
Oh,
It's not Blue's Clues, and it's not Blue.
Ouchie.
No, that's one of the
That's the
characters.
character.
That's his.
But
that's
what
his
is his
sidekick. That's his
name?
sidekick.
I don't know.
The sidekick is way more memorable.
That's true.
I'm sorry.
Bluefy.
Bluey. I was close.
That's what it was.
Yeah, you're right.
Bluefy.
It would have been funny if it was Bluey.
They just straight up said Bluey. They're
Everybody
Disney. I mean, might
They
as well.
could have, but everybody would have been mad at him.
Yeah,
Because they would have
it's
been like, "It is not embarrassing to like Bluey. What are you talking about? That show's amazing." Like all the parents in the audience would have stood up and walked out. They would
I'm gonna go buy Rotten Tomatoes right now and come back here just to throw at the screen. It'll be a different movie, but I don't care.
That'll show.
It'll be a different movie. The movie will be bad either way. But yes, they get put in the vault, and then the Riley's core identity gets launched to the back of the brain, and so the new emotions are going to go retrieve it to fix Riley, to bring her back to where she
Right.
should be. At least that's what the old emotions believe. And then while that is happening,
Right.
anxiety and the new emotions are trying to construct a new core identity for Riley by picking their favorite memories and planting in the pool down below.
Yeah, and almost all of them are anxiety's memories, of course.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Just like almost all of them were joys.
Right.
In the first
and you
part,
can see
so.
like anxiety getting more and more control as the film progresses too.
Yep.
Um,
The belief systems that anxiety makes are things like I need to work harder, I need new friends,
yeah.
stuff like that. And I think by themselves, I think they presented it in such a way that when you hear someone say I need to make new friends, that's not a bad thing necessarily. But the belief system, the reason that's there is because she is abandoning like her other friends. Like there are bad implications to these things that might not be bad by themselves, and we know that. And anxiety is just blind to it until later in the film. So
Yeah, I think they do a really good job at kind of keeping it in that gray area where someone could realistically think that's not a warning sign, that's not a bad direction, that's just something I need to work on. You know, I think they do a good job of that.
Yeah.
Like you said.
yeah, I really like the idea that joy is just immediately put off by wait a second, you're not doing exactly what's right for Riley right now. Like how dare you? But then anxiety gets everyone on board with her in the fact that, well, look, I'm planning for the future. Things will be much better in the future. Things aren't bad now, and they'll be even better in the future. And it's easy to see how all the emotions like come behind her because she thinks she has everything in order. It looks like she's got the future planned.
Yeah.
Like she has like a college plan and everything. And Joy kind of is like, oh my.
On the surface, it feels like it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's very true for a lot of negative emotions. It's just like, even if it's not necessarily true, it feels like it's true.
And in anxiety, like she fools no one better than herself until near the end of the film where Riley does get a core identity with all of her new belief systems.
Right.
And everyone is shocked when the core identity is I'm not good enough, which is I thought was when I heard that I was like, oh man, this film's going good. Okay.
Yeah,
when I heard that I was like, oh man, how is this gonna work out? I don't know, man. This is gonna be juicy.
I thought that was a very good culmination of it. I think that is ultimately where anxiety tends to lead you. It's just that core I'm not good enough. I think that's like one of the big foundations of anxiety, just like as an emotion.
Yeah, you might anxiety. You might think. I don't know if the film was trying to at the beginning say like, well, anxiety is good in healthy amounts because it helps you with the future, But in actual fact, anxiety, when it comes down to it, is at the core, at the very end, I'm not good enough.
Mm.
It's an unhealthy fear. It's not good. And when I heard that,
Right.
and I heard that like the movie was going to deal with the fact that anxiety is just purely like not good in this situation at all. Like it's just not good for Riley. I was really happy with how, I
Right.
was like, okay,
Which is why that line bothers me.
yeah, I was like, this is they're gonna have to deal with the fact that anxiety should not be in control at all. Like,
Yeah, and I think anxiety, like in terms of like, oh, anxiety helps you plan for the future, it helps you think about those things. I think it makes you think about those things, but it doesn't make you act on any of it. It just
yeah.
makes you worry about like,
Well, when you do act on it, it's unhealthy and
yeah,
it's not good.
if it
So.
does that, yeah, but like I think most of the time it leads to this kind of paralysis where it's like, this makes me anxious. I don't want to think about it. I really don't want to think about it. So I'm just going to run from it. I'm not going to do anything about it. And then it's there and you are completely overcome with anxiety because you've been trying to not deal with your problem. I think that happens a lot. But
Hmm. Yeah. What do you think, Ryan, of the new identity, the anxiety and identity, whatever?
Oh, I thought it was magnificent. I it was so well done. And like, I just taught a lesson on anxiety. So I was paying attention. And like their way of not suppressing, but trying to control anxiety at the end was good.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were trying to focus. It's like, okay, you can't control that. What can you control? And then anxiety was like, oh, well, the Spanish test when fear could do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I do agree with you on that shit earlier. What was it that you just said?
about anxiety,
Yeah, 'cause I
making
had a
you
thought on that.
kind of
Because you were
paralyzed
saying,
instead. Yeah.
yeah. What I was thinking is like, yeah, that can happen, but like anxiety is like preparing for the future, and you can act on that. And a lot of times you might, uh, or you might not because you're still too afraid. But a lot of times, what it does is that you assume that when you're being anxious on, like anxiety was like planning for the future, and then it's like, okay, well, because I'm obviously smart and I know it's gonna happen exactly the way I planned, because obviously people are going to act the way I expect them to act.
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't happen that way. And then you get disappointed. So I think they did well at showing, because like anxiety, when her plans did not, happen, did not succeed, her thoughts were, what what happened? Like I planned this out.
Mm.
I planned every scenario. I did not think about like why didn't it work, and that's why. And then that made Riley even more down and
Mm-hmm.
upset, because everything she planned and she did what she thought was going to help her succeed,
Right.
and when it didn't work, it continued to build her belief that she's not good enough and that she'll always be alone. And
Yeah. It also motivated her to do like worse things.
Yeah.
To be even
break into the coach's office.
Mm-hmm. I was going to run through real quick. We don't have to talk about every decision Riley makes,
right.
but I was just going to run through real quick. The first thing she does is she ditches her friends right as soon as they get out. She wants to talk to the new girl, super awesome hockey girl. Okay, who I was actually really impressed. The film like didn't portray any of like the new characters she's talking to as like bad or like a negative influence or anything.
I mean, they were nice.
I know.
Nice. They were good.
I would think all of the negative impact they have is just like, it's not intentional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you might say, oh, they're pressuring her to talk about like the conversations we were trying to get her, like what kind of bands you like, what kind of music you like. They're not really pressuring her to lie or anything, or to like what they like.
No.
They're just naturally curious.
And the pressure is self-inflicted because
yes.
she wants to fit in.
Yes.
And she is anxious about making them like her.
Yep.
So it's self-inflicted for sure.
Mm-hmm. But that's the second one, is her with the new girls, and she's trying to fit in, and so that's where you get the sarcasm bit where she makes fun of what she actually does like, the music she does like, and trying to fit in, aligned to fit the music that they like. She wants to get on the team, and so she has to she finds out that the coach keeps a notepad with specific notes about who she thinks is good enough and what kind of skills they need to work on, stuff like that. And she keeps it in her office. And so that night, Riley decides to break in to read that book. Um, I really really liked the. I think it was embarrassment, like you could see him not like in the background not wanting to be a part of it, because like when she was about to get caught with someone looking through the window of the door, embarrassment's like freaking dying because like he's like this is he should be stopping this.
Yeah.
But anxiety is in full control. And I really want to get to this part when sadness is at HQ at this point because of reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to go into that, but she has control of the board, and she comes through as shame, like as right as Riley's about to read the book, and it's a good thing. Like this is the good shame that I think in this point you could almost say this would have been perfect for embarrassment to do. If embarrassment was going to be more justified as a new emotion, shame I think was a good one, because shame can be good. Shame can be good and bad as well. And I thought like, wow, the idea of portraying shame as a good thing when you're doing something wrong like this, I was really happy they showed that in the film. I was just really happy. What do you guys think about that?
I thought it was good. I did not think too much on the fact that sadness was portrayed as shame. And now that you bring it up, I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that embarrassment would have been better, but for plot reasons, that wasn't going to happen. And embarrassment was portrayed as really shy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wasn't going to, stand up to anxiety. But I also kind of liked how anxiety was in control of every emotion, because anxiety kind of just influences the others and uses them for her own purpose. So
I kind of like sadness being shame, because I mean, like, in a situation like that, I think shame could be a lot more like sadness than embarrassment, because it's kind of sadness at like how far, like how much you've compromised your character, because this isn't something that Riley would have done based on her earlier beliefs. She knows it's wrong, and when you kind of break your morals like that, it can just cause like this deep sadness in you, in that shame. And it's like, just because you know it's wrong, and you know that you know it, so you shouldn't, it's not like it's an accident. It's, you're intentionally breaking your morals, you're intentionally doing something wrong like that. And I don't know, I just feel like sadness could be more justified.
Okay. I guess I can see that. I didn't think about it too much that embarrassment could have been shame, but I really like how sadness came across in that scene in particular. Was really really good. And like you said, Ryan, for plot reasons, it made a lot of sense having sadness be caught there. But she makes more decisions that night in deciding to stay up or get up early and practice for the big scrimmage or whatever. She wants to prove herself to the coach, and during the actual the match, she makes several bad decisions and stealing passes and not passing it.
She's a puck hog. Is that what you'd call it in hockey? Or...
I guess so. You call it a ball hog in basketball.
Yeah, you call it a ball hog in anything else, basically. But I guess in hockey, you'd call it a puck hog.
Yeah, and she is scoring points. Like, she scored points. She's playing really great. But she gets sent to the penalty box. And anxiety is just losing it, because like, we need to be on the court, and things start spiraling out of control in the mind, because anxiety doesn't know what to do. Like, she has to sit here when she could be in control out in the field, and that's when the anxiety attack really hits.
And I really like the visuals of that, where anxiety's like running around, like moving like incredibly fast. You know, but she's also not doing anything. she's also paralyzed at the same
Yeah,
time.
Joy comes up to grab her, and she's just she's not touching any of
Right.
the board, like you
And
can see.
and I think that's a lot like when anxiety really spirals out of control, whether it's an anxiety attack or whatever. That is how it feels. Your mind is racing with all these things and all these thoughts, but you can't do anything about it. You're not like able to act on any of it. You're just stuck spiraling down in your own
Mm-hmm.
thoughts.
Yeah, and even when Joy finally gets anxiety to slow down and pulls her away from the board, the anxiety attack is still happening. Like we get to see Riley from I forget what we decided to say, the outside world, whatever,
External.
external
Yeah.
world, and she's still in this anxiety attack. Like she has to overcome it, and none of the other emotions. Like you can't just have Joy come up to the screen and be like beep bop boop. Now we're happy. Like
Which she could have in the first
that would have
movie.
been that would have been I was really worried like, oh, let's work together to overcome this type deal. But instead, what's happening with how the new emotion the old emotions got there is all of the memories that were supposedly wanted to be trashed from early in the film have now flooded into the belief system down below. And now Riley has to deal with all of the memories, not just the ones that have been filtered,
Right.
to make her what either Joy wants her to be or what anxiety wants her to be. Her entire life experience, good and bad, have to be filtered through her belief system. She has to come up with her own belief system.
Well, all of her experiences, good and bad, are now in her belief system. They're now a part of it, which is an important distinction for something I want to talk about later. So
Okay. Yeah, I was really worried the movie was going to try to make it back to Joy should be in control of filtering through like the belief system, but just the idea of having all of your memories there is like that's what makes you who you are, is all of your experiences. You can't just filter out the things you want to forget. They can impact your belief system in incredibly important ways, which is what happens. Um, if the I'm not good enough might merge with I'm a good person and be like, well, there's room for improvement. I'm a good friend, but like I can be better.
right.
And the idea of not thinking of yourself as perfect, like Joy might have wanted Riley to think of herself, but just being, I don't know, more of a realistic person, realistic expectations for yourself, not being anxiety in that you need to be perfect, but that you can be happy with where you're at. And I don't know. I just thought it was done really well. Really
Yeah,
well.
I mean, well, it cycles through like I'm a good friend. I'm a terrible friend. I'm selfless. I'm selfish. It's less of a it's less definitive and it more acknowledges, hey, I can be all these things. I can be a good friend. I can be a terrible friend.
Mm-hmm.
I can be selfish. I can be selfless. I can be kind. I can be mean. I can, it's more acknowledging like I'm a little more complicated than just a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree. I like that. I like that it acknowledges that you can be more than one of these things. Like sometimes people are selfish, sometimes they're not. Sometimes people are mean, sometimes they're not. I like that it acknowledges more of those complexities, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely agree because I think I mean, in our society, we can be more so apt to just ignore the flaws that we have and just say that we're a good person, but having all the bad and all the good, uh, coming together to it makes us who we are, right? Instead of having those suppressed memories that we had. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of those can be like bad, like really bad memories,
Right.
right? Because I mean, we do that. I mean, all of us do
Mm-hmm.
that. So, and it's ironically, it's joy because we want to have joy, and joy is the one that does that, which is interesting to have. But yeah, no, I thought it was really good. I really liked it. Thought it was really. I mean, we can get into that later, I guess.
I mean, I'm okay with getting into it now if you are.
Oh yeah,
Well,
I'm
the
talking
fact
about
that
whatever.
the memory, like the back of the mind, just so happens to be perfectly placed to where it can just flow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, from the very beginning of the film, when I saw
No.
them launching them back, like the memories back there, I'm like, okay, that's got to be a setup for something later. But again, I really like the payoff, and so it's a sacrifice of the world building, and like for the sake of an emotional payoff.
And like
Yeah.
you could say like, okay, the stream of consciousness that goes in. There was a sarcasm that destroyed
Yeah,
part of the
that's
stream
true,
of
too.
consciousness.
Well, they used that. They
But
were
it's-
flying in.
It's a really big coincidence that it just
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
happens to lead
Oh,
back to
yeah, oh yeah. It's a
headquarters.
horrible like
Yeah.
convenience. Like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
all the way in the back of the line, and that's just a shortcut all
Yeah.
the way to
I think-
headquarters.
I think that's probably the biggest problem with the plot is that this just so happens to lead
Yeah.
exactly where they need to go. It leads directly to the pool of memories,
Mhm.
which is the payoff, which saves Riley.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like without any of that, it's over. Movies, they lost.
Yep.
There's no
Yeah.
resolution. The good guys lose. It's all over.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's if they had set it up better, it could work.
If
didn't
they would have
set that
if they
up.
would have somehow been if they could have like, oh, we can just take this stream all the way back like earlier, but then that you can't have that be an option. If they want to have the option of saying, well, we could blow this to make it so that we can flow all the way back, and like enjoy just constantly protesting because like she wants to continually hide these memories from Riley.
Right.
That'd be okay, but it's just kind of at the very end they're like, this is something we can do. Let's try it.
Yeah, and it's like, what is that big gap, anyways? What does that represent? What is that big hole in the ground? What is that big like chasm that they go through? Like, what does that
Yeah.
represent? Because like everything else is representative of something.
Well, they straight up go through like the memory pit, whatever, and from the first movie. That's a part of it, and I'm just like, well, that's really odd that they just now have a path through there, like the river just
Yeah.
goes straight through there.
Because that was a big
That was
problem in the first
first
movie.
movie,
is
you
that-
can't get through there.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's huge coincidence. And if they had thought about like, okay, what is this thing? What does it represent? What can we make it?
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe they could justify it better.
Yeah.
But it's also introduced like right when they need it, basically.
Yeah, it's like, oh, these memories have been back there. Like, oh, we set that up early in the film. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you didn't establish that you can literally just go from there to the front desk in like a minute.
Well, they didn't establish what the chasm was,
Yeah.
or that it was there, or just they didn't establish it at all, except when like Joy basically just turns around and like,
Yeah.
how are we gonna get back? Turns around, there's a big chasm. I have an idea.
Well, it was funny when Anger starts like pulling the dynamite out of Palpatine's mouth, which I thought was hilarious. I love that joke. You know what? Good luck. Oh. I leaned over to my wife and I was like, I wonder what an explosion like. What is that representation in Riley's mind? What is that
That's
doing?
what I was gonna say. I was gonna say,
What is a giant explosion in the brain supposed to
is
represent?
it like a headache? Is it, what is it? Is it brain damage or?
We're gonna literally, we'll cause a little bit of brain damage.
Yeah. This is a sacrifice
It's
we
a,
need to make.
a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
I don't know what that was. So I don't think the writers knew either what
Yeah,
that was supposed to represent.
Like, that point, it was a joke. The sacrifice of it was a symbolism as a sacrifice to
Yeah.
a joke.
It was just something that
So.
they needed to solve. They were just like,
Yeah.
we have a problem, we need to solve it. This is how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, and typically, I will say, in a lot of movies, you'll see things like jokes or plot contrivances, and you'll see everything is at the expense of something else. And
Right.
In this film, it's weird to say that I'm more okay with the decisions just because of what they were able to convey because of it. But
I mean, it's the same amount of a problem as it would have been.
yeah, it's same problem, but I'm just comparing it to like, I don't know.
I will agree. I'm more forgiving because I think the film has executed a lot of other elements
Mm-hmm.
very well, and especially the payoff. I really like the payoff, but setup is broken. The setup is fundamentally broken where it is right now. So,
Yeah.
and that's a major problem with the film. That's going to prevent it from being considered higher in my eyes.
Yeah. The
It's a
plot, and the
Yeah.
world building, plot and world building really drag it down. But like I said,
Well, there are aspects of them that drag it down. There are certain things that are pretty cool and like really nice to see, like really interesting. Like the belief system. I like the belief system,
Yeah.
even if it's inconsistent. I think there's enough wiggle room there, but there are other things that you just can't justify. So I
Yeah.
wish they had figured out how to justify some of these things and how to set up the resolution a little better. I will say I'm not completely sold on the message of having all of these memories become part of her belief system. Not because like I'm saying it's a good thing to suppress memories or anything. I'm just saying there's certain memories that you shouldn't let define you.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Especially like there are a lot of memories like when Joy's scrolling through them, they're like really small mistakes and things. You know?
Yeah.
Like and I don't think you should let those mistakes define you. You shouldn't suppress them. You shouldn't like go, "Oh, these didn't happen. I'm never going to think of," but like you shouldn't let them become a core part of your identity.
I would say that, I mean, it was a mistake of Joy to send them all to the back of the mind, but
Mm.
I think it just depends on what you do with the memory. Because as
Right.
you see, one of the memories was Riley got in F or whatever, and her parents said, "This is not what we expect from you." But we see in the beginning of the movie, she's a grade A student.
Right.
So using those memories to become a better version of yourself, a better person, instead of using those memories being and well, which I mean you have anxiety or
Mm-hmm.
like anxiety would have caused this or different negative emotions, I guess. To where you just have a negative mindset about yourself and just causing you to fall into more anxiety
Yeah.
depression.
Yeah.
I would push back just the idea of any memory that you have can be used to influence you in a better way. Even if it's a horrible memory, like an absolutely horrible memory.
Yeah.
If you understand it correctly and in the right way, it can influence you positively
I
for the future.
I agree with that. It's just that's not I'm thinking more of the like the implication where you made a mistake and now you're just like hung up on it. You just let
Fixated on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
where it's like if you I don't know what a specific example might be, but like those minor mistakes, maybe like the test thing, where it's like you have that thing and you just let it become like a core part of your identity. You
Yeah,
fixate
you
on it.
worry about failing
Yeah,
a test from now on.
that's more what I mean.
Yeah. Well, see, that's why I like it's not just about that. It's all of them. All of them. Like all of the emotions are down there. At least all the ones that they tried to hide
Yeah.
away. And so the idea that like we didn't she's not trying to focus. Riley's not particularly trying to focus on these individual things. It's more so the fact that she now has all of them that she has to focus on, and it's not like we see earlier in the entire rest of the film. It's one memory creating a belief, but like at the end, it's like multiple memories coming together to like she has to work them out and create multiple like individual beliefs with multiple memories. Um,
Right.
so I thought that was a good thing to do at the end, not to just show that everything's by like individual. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. I like I said, I just worry that well, I guess not worry. That's too strong for just like a.
You're concerned.
It's too strong. I just I think that might be an implication is that oh hey you should let all of your memories should define you, all of them should,
Hmm.
and it's like I don't really agree with that just because I know that there are some memories that like shouldn't define you, like your mistakes. There are some mistakes and stuff that just they don't matter. You should forgive yourself and you should move on. And sometimes the healthiest way to deal with a memory is just to acknowledge it happened and then let it be, leave it alone.
Yeah, and if I was to remake a Inside Out for myself in my mind, and I would assume every memory of mine just goes entirely into long term storage, and hope and half of it, like most of it, just gets lost forever. But then I don't have a pool of individual
Yeah.
memories. I just build off of every emotion, every memory I ever have to create my belief system. It's not
Yeah,
handpicked per se. Um,
yeah, and maybe the belief pool wasn't as well thought out then as I
yeah,
assumed.
yeah.
Maybe it should have just been like
The,
every memory in your mind
like
is where it draws from. Yeah,
long
maybe.
term storage literally had like flows through there before like getting forgotten or something
Yeah,
or
maybe,
something like that.
or maybe long-term storage, not before getting forgotten, but maybe instead of being shot up the tube, it goes through the river
Hmm.
to long-term. Maybe that would be a better way, or maybe only certain like the memories that are remembered long-term and the short-term ones that are forgotten. I completely lost what I was saying. Never mind. uh, Kind of ironic that I was talking about forgetting memories.
Long term memory. There's something about memory, but I forget.
Oh, that was ironic. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not a big problem I have. It's just kind of like, I wonder if that's an implication of what they've written. So
Hmm.
I don't think it's genuine like flaw with the film or anything. It's just like, is that something that could be drawn from what they said? Is that like a message that you could draw from what they said? And do I agree with that? I'm more using it as a vehicle for discussion than a point
Gotcha.
of criticism.
Gotcha.
So it's not like a massive issue I have. It's just kind of something that I'm like, I don't know if I agree with. But
Yeah, I like the idea of it being filtered, like memories flowing through there, and maybe the idea is, or could be, I should say, whatever water pool that is, Riley in her mind, like her belief system, it's separate from the emotions getting to decide what memories stay. Like her, like she, depending on what her belief system is or her core identity, some memories could come through like a mistake, like an individual, and she doesn't. That just flows right through. It doesn't become part of her belief system,
yeah,
but like an important one or something that for some reason she decides to latch onto.
yeah,
I don't know. Just having Riley, I like the idea of Riley being more in charge. The less control you give the emotions,
yeah.
I
And
don't know.
I agree with that. I think this movie does a really good job at that, and I like it better, especially since it's more representative of real life. Like people are not just like automatons
Yeah.
piloted by
Well,
their
every time they're
emotions.
mad, like anger doesn't take over. Like
No,
people, like as you get older, you have a lot more self, or you should have a lot more self control.
yeah.
So
I mean, your emotions, like maybe when you're a baby, your emotions
yeah,
completely control you. But like by the time you're 11, like in the first movie, your
yeah.
emotions do not completely control you.
The next movie introduces self control, and it's just like Riley getting mad and just self control having to hold back anger the entire film.
Self control, just this massive buff guy.
Well, he starts off as really scrawny and like really weak, and that's his arc. He has to grow to be stronger.
He has to keep working out.
Every time Riley makes like the good decision to restrain herself, he just like muscles just pop up. Like, oh, sorry.
It becomes a sports film. Does a Rocky montage. That'd be pretty funny. Goes through a tournament arc, has to take down each emotion one by one. That'd be pretty funny. Pixar, you listening?
Free ideas.
Free idea.
What else do you want to talk about the film? I basically only have one thing left. So
I've said my piece.
said your piece. Okay. HM, you've got like 10 more things you want to say. I know.
I think I've covered most of what I wanted to talk about. I did want to mention I really liked how they used the imagination. What's it called? The imagination.
Station. I'm just kidding. Land.
Imagination
Land. I just had to make a joke there real quick.
Imagination Nation. Yeah, Imagination Land. I really like how they used that and had anxiety take that over as a way to spiral and
Yeah.
worry about the future. Yeah.
The ideas generator. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that
Generating
is
ideas.
what happens. Anxiety just makes your imagination go wild in all the wrong ways. So
Yeah, I did like that.
yeah,
That was
I
really
thought that
good.
was really clever, and I did like the way Joy kind of countered it too. not as much as I like the idea, but I did like the way they countered it as well by saying, "Hey, what if a good thing happens instead?" Like,
Yeah, something
yeah,
anxiety does not want to tolerate. That's not what anxiety is
yeah,
about.
and I think that that can be useful is to go ahead and entertain the positive outcomes that could happen from a
Mm.
situation. Because when you're being anxious, it's like, okay, calm down. What if something good happens? That's
Yeah.
possible. Something good could happen from this. It's not all gonna be terrible. Like it's very likely that a meteor is not going to crash into the earth and
Yeah.
kill everybody.
But you never know.
But you never know. Uh, you'd never know that it might not do that. you,
Why worry about it? You can't stop it.
maybe the meteor will burn up and be really small, and you'll get it, and you'll make tons of money.
There we go. You
Maybe
can make a
you'll-
cool
yeah.
sword. You can make it.
Maybe you could. A meteorite sword.
Ooh,
Hmm.
that's a good idea.
That is a good idea. Somebody should do that someday. Hmm.
Anything else? Anything else?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. Well, I mean, the one thing I wanted to talk about, we don't have to end on this, but it is the end of the film. It ends with Riley looking at the list to see if she made the team, and we don't get to see the outcome, but she looks happy, and so you just kind of led to assume that she made the team. What do you think about that?
I'm not sure that's supported in the film.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, if I was the coach and I saw the way she played during that last game.
Oh, you don't mean it's supported that she made the team?
Yes, that's
Okay.
what I mean.
Yes.
Not that she would be happy about it. Of course
Okay.
she would be happy
Yeah.
about
Well,
it.
I didn't
That
know
would
if
be-
you meant that
Yeah.
you didn't think that's what happened at the end.
No.
Okay.
No. I
Okay.
believe you. I trust
Okay.
you.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I don't think the film established that as the outcome. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
the
like
film
she-
set that up.
She
as
like
the
runs into
outcome.
players to like steal the puck and like.
I mean,
I mean, she steals it from her own teammate.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
A
Like.
couple times. Or if I saw that as a coach, I'd kick you out.
yeah, and she's wrecking into people too. She's ramming into them. It's just I don't think the coach would have done that.
Yeah, especially there's nothing between the night before where she has it in her notebook, she's
Yeah.
not ready, and the next day where she's literally plowing over her teammates to score
Yeah,
points.
I think she's ready.
She's
yeah.
got what it takes now.
Yeah, I called a foul on her. I think she's ready. She's sitting on the bench. Yeah, she's ready.
I just wasn't really happy with that being the very end of the film. I would have rather had a
No.
different resolution with her friends or even her new friends.
Well, I mean, I would have been fine if she didn't make the team, but she still was friends with them
Yeah.
and still
Yeah.
working towards it. I mean, that would be totally set up. Like, it would be totally fine if she did that. If the team was still like, hey, you're gonna make it next year. Hey, you've got this.
Yeah. Or if we look at the text and we just get enough time to see she didn't make it, and before we get a reaction shot from Riley, we see like a text message from like one of the new girls on the team and
Yeah,
like
what-
wanting to
what's her name,
practice and
Val?
stuff. wanting to practice, and then we get to see a reaction like, and we get to see more of
Yeah.
a complex reaction than just
Or-
oh, I'm happy now.
Or maybe she gets the news and then like Val just like this taps her on the shoulder and says, "Come on, we're gonna go play hockey" or something like that. You know.
Yeah,
Probably not that exact line, but you know, just like, hey, come on, let's go hang out, just to show that she's not going to be alone. It's gonna be okay, without going, she got exactly what she wanted.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's the thing. After having such a great, I don't know, just emotional through line in dealing with all anxiety and all that, I would have been okay with the outcome of the film not being perfect. Like I would have rather it not been Riley gets exactly what
Right.
she wanted. So
And I don't know. I think that's something that a lot of stories in general have trouble accepting. Is just like sometimes the outcome shouldn't be perfect. Sometimes
yeah,
it's way better for the story, for the characters, if it's not perfect. If they fail, or if they fail to get what they want, but they did get what they needed. Because
yeah,
what Riley really needed wasn't to join the hockey team. She just needed some friends. She needed to know she was going to be okay in high school.
mhm.
Like that's what she needed. She just needed to know that everything was going to be okay and she wasn't going to be alone. And it's just showing that, hey, she does have friends at the end of the movie. It's okay. It didn't turn out in this awful, horrible way that it was supposed to. You know, I mean, that's
Mhm.
what she needed.
Yeah.
She wanted to join the team. she really wanted to join the team. If you don't understand that by now, let me make it clear. I don't know. I feel like that would have been a much better resolution, at least to that part of the story.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of a missed opportunity to have more of a, I don't know,
Yeah,
realistic ending that it would. I
and that's something I know.
just didn't like it.
This Monsters University is not a great film or anything,
Yeah.
but I do like that it has the guts to do that in its message, where the protagonist, Mike didn't get what he wanted, but he did find what he needed.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
found something else.
He found something he was good at and he was passionate about, and that's what he was really looking for.
Mhm.
It wasn't he thought it was, I gotta be the world's greatest scarer. I'm going to prove myself in this way. And instead he ended up proving himself in a different way and getting tons of respect, and he got everything he was looking for without
But not
but
what
not
his
the-
original goals.
yeah, not the way he thought he would.
Mhm. Yeah.
And like, I think sometimes movies need to acknowledge that, yeah, it sometimes you can't do it, and that's okay. And I think this movie had an opportunity to do that, but it missed it.
Yeah, just went, nah, LOL, Riley's perfect.
And it wouldn't have even had to be like, oh, you can't ever do this. It would have just been like, not now. You can't do it now. You weren't ready now.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, it would have been
next year.
it would have been obvious from what we saw. Like, no coach would have picked her. Like after that game.
Yeah, and the coach wasn't going to pick her.
Yeah.
And that game would have been like definitive confirmation. Oh yeah, she's definitely not ready. She would have just put like a very.
She's ready for prison.
She would have just put like "very" in all caps on the sheet. That's all she would have changed about it. What did you think about that, Ryan? What did you think?
I mostly agree. I thought it was okay. I mean, assuming she did make the team. Okay to have that, because anxiety is, I mean, really, you're fearing that the worst, that everything bad that can happen will happen.
Right.
And I think it's a good message still to give, that there can still be good to happen, even if you are scared that it won't. But it doesn't affect you as a person.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't define you.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a bad message, but yeah, I could see her not making the team be more consistent, really,
Right.
with the fact that the coach. Though, to be fair, the team, or Val.
Yeah, Val.
She did make a point several times to her teammates to stop putting pressure on Riley, because the scrimmage isn't necessarily what's gonna make or break your chance to be on the team.
Right.
It's a great way for Riley to make the team, but it's not the way. Is what she was pointing out. So technically, they can still argue that, because there's going to be tryouts right before. There's going to be tryouts, and so the coach can see her then, and then announce the team, which is not stated in the film, but if you have any really knowledge of public school sports, I mean, that's just what happens, tryouts.
Right.
But there's still a memory of, like, okay, Riley is not,
She shows up. The coach is like, "Whoa, she's not shoving anybody over here."
Okay, improvement.
She's actually playing with her team.
Wow.
She's not fighting against them. Whoa.
Oh.
She's not slamming people against the wall and breaking their skulls.
I mean, that's okay in hockey, as long
Yeah.
as it's the other team.
She's not cut out for this. She's not breaking any bones anymore. She's not cut out for this.
Can't go
Honestly,
pro.
guys.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I still feel like a good compromise between, like you said, showing that anxiety, it doesn't always lead to the worst outcome. I feel like a good compromise between showing that and also showing the consequences for Riley's bad behavior
Oh yeah.
would be to have her not make the team, but she still gets friends. She's still friends with them. And that way it's like, okay, she's not alone, but she still has these consequences that she had to deal with. I mean, that's kind of what I would go for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have been happy with a little bit more complexity, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't the worst way they could have ended it, but it was just kind of disappointing after the whole emotional climax of the film being like, oh man, that was done so well, and just kind of like, oh, and everything's perfect. I'm like, oh, that's not what I wanted. That's
Yeah.
not...
Yeah, I'm with you. I would have preferred it the other way, but I can understand.
Yeah.
I can understand your perspective on that, Ryan, for sure.
Yeah. That's Inside Out too. It's gonna make $1 billion.
Probably.
Probably.
It's on its way. It's what, like 765 million or what?
I don't know. I closed the tab. I don't have it. I closed the tab.
That's Control Shift T.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can check your history.
Well, Control Shift T brings back.
I can just
old
look
tab.
it up and I can just change Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2.
You already looked it up, so it should be in your search history too, right? I think you looked up how much.
Okay.
How much did it make?
There we go. No, that's the wrong one.
It's cost to make. Yeah, how much did it make? There you go.
Oh yeah, it's already at 858 million.
$858.8 million. Yeah.
It's gonna make $1 billion.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet.
Unless Despicable Me 4 sweeps up all the rest.
I don't think so.
But I hope not.
Is that our next conversation?
No, no. I wouldn't wish my worst enemy to watch that movie. It's horrible. It's so bad. Like, if you watch the trailers, 90% of the trailers is just filler. Like, you could have been erased from the movie. The plot changes nothing. Like, it's so bad.
Yeah. Well, that was Inside Out too.
That was Inside Out too?
We talked about it. We're done
now.
now.
So I said earlier, I gave it like a 7 out of 10. What would you guys give it?
Well, if I have to give a number score, I'd say 7 out of 10 is pretty good.
Pretty good.
I think I'd just say it's pretty good, and I would probably recommend watching it.
Yeah. If the plot was a little better, didn't have as many contrivances, the world building was better, I'd move it up like to an 8 solid. But it's a few things that really hold it back.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that for sure.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I would go 7 out of 10.
Unanimous decision.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I would definitely watch it again, but it's not my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I think it's mostly. I mean, partially just personal preference of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But
yeah.
If it didn't have some of the few just weird world building choices.
Oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, it holds it back from being like one of the best Pixar's, but like I'm gonna rewatch this one way more than I'm ever gonna. I might never rewatch the first Inside Out in like 10 years. I don't know.
Well, it's been 10 years. I haven't watched it again, so I've already watched this one twice. So it's already.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Already making a lot more progress.
Here we go.
Yeah, I think I'd rewatch this one. I probably won't rewatch the first film.
There's just no appeal like in comparison to this one.
Yeah,
So.
I just don't really have a good reason to go back to it.
Yeah.
Now that we're done with the podcast.
Next episode, the first Inside Out.
Yeah.
Don't do that to me.
We have some plans to cover some niche stuff.
Yeah, some indie animation. Yeah.
We're planning on checking in on the indie field of animation on YouTube specifically. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can keep an eye out, subscribe, whatever. I mean, if you made it this far, you probably know that already. But if you needed a reminder, there it was. Now it's gone. So yeah, well, I'm looking forward to the future for the podcast. And
yes.
I definitely had a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us, Ryan, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I hope you had a good time.
Yeah. It was great having you, man. Welcome back. Anytime, pretty much. Anytime we're recording.
Which is not very often.
Yeah.
It might.
Wow.
It's not often. We don't.
No.
We need to do a little better.
Yeah. It's
We strive for quality over
Yeah.
quantity.
just like Disney.
What the heck? What the heck?
It's what Bob Iger keeps telling me. Keeps saying it in every interview.
We don't make dozens of movies and shows a year. What are you talking about?
We're gonna start striving for quality over quantity. Changes nothing. Yeah, I think we're gonna start doing that now.
Acolyte, the next show that comes out.
Not the apple.
Oh, that show was
Hurts my heart.
Oh, that show was so
You know,
bad.
There
man.
was only one episode I liked, and it was the one where they were fighting and there was no dialogue.
It was just the lightsaber fights,
Yeah,
basically the whole
That's
episode.
literally, yeah, no, it was 30 minutes worth, and honestly, it was kind of good.
Yeah,
Kind of
Considering.
good.
Kinda
Kind
the
of good,
episode-
considering. Yeah.
Considering the train wrecks that we have seen. Goodness.
isn't that an endorsement for Star
Well,
Wars?
Luckily, we will not be covering the Acolyte. So
That's just a sign of where entertainment is nowadays. Hey, this show's kind of good.
This episode,
It's kind of good. Maybe you should watch this episode. It's kind of good.
There's like 3 sentences of dialogue.
We used to have shows where we'd just be like, yeah, this show's great, watch it. Now it's just like, this episode's kind of good. Maybe you should watch that.
Uh,
Media is not in a great place. But hey, Inside Out 2 was pretty good. And
Pretty
maybe, well, actually, I hope it's a good sign for the future. Pixar's planning on doing a lot more sequels. We'll see how that works out. Hopefully they're good
Yeah.
sequels and they're not just like mandated stuff that don't have any good stories behind them. So we'll see how it goes.
yeah,
Hopefully it's good.
yeah. Any movie sequels can be great.
They can
They
be.
can be.
This one was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty
So
good.
yeah. So listener, this one's for you. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time if you show up, if you want to. Bye.
Bye.
bye-bye.